Hi Tentacrew, Billy here, and what if I were to tell you that the way Final Fantasy XV is made is not the way it is intended to be played? Much like the One Ring from Lord of the Rings, or Highlanders, there can be only one, or even Mad Max, 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. One is very symbolic in fantasy-type adventures, and Final Fantasy XV is no different. So here I am to explain to you why I believe a level 1 run is the way to play through Final Fantasy XV. So first things first, what is Final Fantasy XV? It is the 15th mainline game in the Final Fantasy series, and Final Fantasy is a sci-fi fantasy. It's went through a ton of genres, but ultimately it is fantasy at its highest form, known for RPG elements such as leveling up, gear acquisition, monsters, magic, all the likes. Now, Final Fantasy XV is a little different than most of the other Final Fantasies in the fact that it was the first to go into a live fighting style mode. It did away with the old school turn-based systems, and this was both a boon and a negative to a lot of the fan base. A lot of people really enjoyed this mechanic, me being one of them. It brings it more in line with what the modern taste of gaming is, but also the purists and the more strategy-minded individuals did not enjoy this because they felt it dumbed it down and just became a arbitrary hack and slash. And I can understand, with the way the game is set up, why a lot of people would feel this way. And that is part due to the leveling system. So I am honestly of the opinion that the leveling system, I felt like the way this game has been balanced and the way this game has been made, it is not intended to have a leveling system. I feel like the leveling system was added in post just to, one, appeal to purists that would not like a Final Fantasy without a traditional level system, and 2, to act as kind of a buffer for maybe some less skilled or less grind-oriented players that just wanted to go through and enjoy the story and didn't want to have to work particularly hard for that story. Now, a lot of Final Fantasies, none of them are particularly hard, mind you, but I do believe that this game by far is one of the easiest that has been created. It's honestly a walk in the park, and with the amount of side questing that you have at your disposal and the amount of things that you can do that can skyrocket your level to the moon, it is very easy to outpace the game in many different functions, whether it be not being able to die, one-shotting everything. It is ridiculously easy in this game to outlevel. But as you can see here, I am a level 1 character going through a early to mid tier dungeon, and I am having relatively no difficulty with it. Poison and status effects are always a pain, as you saw in that B fight, but I am not struggling one bit against these level 18 and up enemies. And that is in part due to the other progression systems within Final Fantasy XV that I feel like are slept on by a good majority of the player base in favor of just cranking levels and going at it there. So, we have just arrived at a campsite. This is the first aspect that I feel a lot of people don't take advantage of, or are just unaware of how important it is, and a level 1 run will bring out the importance of this system, and that is the camping system, and mainly the cooking. Gathering recipes, gathering ingredients, all basically will do the part in giving you stat buffs, which in turn will negate virtually all downsides you have to not leveling. If you were to be leveling traditionally, these would be stacked on top of your levels already, making you even more phantasmically overpowered than anything else you would come up to. In a level 1 run, this is a balancing factor to just bring you in line and make the game feel like it's supposed to. So I'm just going to go ahead and we're fighting level 18-ish enemies, so I'm going to go ahead and do a level 18 attack boost and a level 15 HP boost. That is based on what your increases would be around that level. So I'm basically scaling my health and stuff to around that level just by eating. Another thing Final Fantasy 15 did very different compared to the others, and this is honestly one of the factors I'm not the biggest fan of, but I have grown to appreciate it, and that is the magic system. So they have made magic a farmable and consumable in this game. You can go to rocks such as this here, and if you are out of a element, you can suck the element out of those rocks. Then you can take it into the Elemanti, and then combine the elements with different items to get different effects, such as venom casts, kill casts, heal casts, such as that. And then you can equip them to your bar, and voila, you have magic. This one that I'm using right now is Venom Cast, so it is not only going to do lightning damage to this poor shield shear, but it is also going to envenomate him, causing him to periodically lose health throughout the fight. You can see his health chipping down there, the 63s and such. We're just going to go ahead and do a Link Strike in to finish him off, and we are going to press forward. So we've talked about camping. Let's go in and talk about gear. This is another place where Final Fantasy has very good balance, in my opinion. Gear is another way to increase your stats and the stats of the entire party to actually be able to fight what you're going to be fighting. And it's another aspect that if you're traditionally leveling, you just go for numbers crunch. And you kind of do that here, but it becomes more of an importance, especially with Noctis. His royal arms give different stat bonuses based on which ones you have. So if, say, you want to use the Shield of the Just, this is going to give you massive HP and defense at the expense of your damage. If you want to go Axe of the Conqueror, it is the reverse. You are going to lose out on some of your defenses, but gain ridiculous strides damage-wise. And so on and so forth. With the other characters, it is not as much about their weapons as it is their accessories. Making sure that you have good accessories equipped is far more important in a level 1 run, and it is not just kind of like plug and play as you get it. You need to actively be pursuing these items like you would in many traditional Final Fantasies. You will feel underleveled without the gear, you'll feel balanced or overleveled with it. So as you can see here, I've got him with a Dark Matter Bracelet and an Onion Bangle. Dark Matter Bracelet gives you damage, Onion Bangle gives you health. All ways to negate the fact that you are sitting at level 1, and it honestly brings you perfectly into balance with the game. This goes for every single one of the other members. I've got them all set up with the same thing, because I've got them set up with some in-game materials, but it really doesn't matter that much, because as you progress, you can gain these almost whenever you want to, as far as mid-game or further in. And to top this all off, another progression route that they felt to add to this game, because both camping, magic, and your gear was not enough, they also added an Ascension tree. Now what this is basically skill trees for you and your party. So these skill trees give you many different ways of going about gaining progression and gaining damage throughout the course of the game. And as you're doing things like driving the car, riding chocobos, fighting enemies, you're going to be getting these AP points that you can plug into any of these skill trees. There's a ton of them. Whether you want your Armiger, the super move, if you want to go into magic, you can. There's a healing and recovery tree. Techniques, which is your moves that the boys will do on their own. Standard combat things, such as phasing. This is mainly just for Noctis. Teamwork is stuff like link striking, other abilities that happen during battle, and all of these bring you into line damage-wise so that you don't feel the hurt of the level system. And if you were to be leveling, these would be overkill in every single aspect. Most people that I know very rarely will be prioritizing what they're putting points into, because it doesn't generally matter in a standard playthrough, whereas in a level 1 playthrough, you will be actively mapping out which points you want to put where, how you want to do it. It makes it more strategic, and I feel like more so a traditional-minded Final Fantasy player will enjoy this a lot more than the audience that I feel like this game was kind of marketed to, which was trying to bring more new players into the Final Fantasy realm through it being both live action and dumbed down in some aspects with the leveling system, while also kind of over flooded with other systems that you can put time and thought into, but you don't really need to. And again, it just keeps going through all of these other things, all of which will make your game experience easier in the long run. So when you combine all of these aspects, why would you ever need to add a stat that more so just artificially inflates the damage that your characters are already going to be doing? Because at the end of the day, everything that the game throws at you is more than enough to give you in-game level results and not need to just number stack on top of that, which is effectively what traditional leveling in this game has amounted to. You're just stacking more numbers on top of the numbers that you gain through actual fun methods, such as the skill trees, such as your gear, your weapons. All of that is the fun way of getting level and getting progression, not just gaining XP and then putting it into nothing because it auto bumps you up. So to really drive this point home, I'm going to push forward to the end boss of this little area, and I'm going to show you just how well the system works and how I don't, like, if you were to not know that I was level 1, if I hadn't shown you that I was level 1, I want you guys to see specifically how the game plays at that aspect, and don't take into consideration as much that I have a few pieces of like in-game accessories and stuff, because my weapons are not the pinnacle of the pinnacle. Even my items aren't the pinnacle of the pinnacle. They're just good enough. I have finished the game with this save file, but it is not the factor that is carrying me through this dungeon. I did this dungeon far earlier in the playthrough. I just wanted to use it as an easy example of what this kind of a run can net you. And I feel like it's much more rewarding to do it this way than just over-level yourself and smash through the game. I beat this game in one weekend, roughly 20-something hours, and I did every side quest before I went through to the main quest, and it honestly kind of ruined my initial playthrough of the game just because by over-leveling, nothing felt impactful. Well, isn't this fucking awkward? You walk up here, you have a big speech planned out while you're fighting the big bad boss of the dungeon, and lo and behold, dude ain't even here. Dude heard we were rolling up, boys, and he's scared. He left. He flew the coop. Let me find you guys something else to kind of showcase what this build is all about. Be right back. Okay, we found another kind of boss-type enemy to fight, and I just wanted to also go through a few misconceptions that some people might have for this kind of a run. One of which would be, oh, don't you just get one shot all the time? No. If you're building properly, doing everything like you should be, one-shotting is not going to be a thing that happens. Yes, you'll take a good amount of damage, but it forces you into a more tactical state of mind when playing. You can go ahead and just hold R1 and try to waylay into the side of something, as you see here, and it'll get you some results, but it will not get you the results that you require. Another misconception is, oh, aren't the boys just going to die constantly? Well, no, not necessarily. Again, it all depends on how you build them and how you do the things that you do. If you are taking into consideration all of the skills that the boys have at their disposal, all the pickups and stuff, yes, you could potentially just lose the boys and just focus on Noctis, but I feel like that is also a way that the game isn't intended for you to play. Number 3, what about just spamming items? Isn't the game just going to become an item spam fest where you're constantly using heal pots and all this other stuff just to keep you alive? No, that is not going to be the case at all. In some circumstances, such as what you are seeing there, it kind of can. With some of the end game stuff, some of the bosses aren't super well balanced in general, let alone for a level 1 run, but that's a flaw of the game and not necessarily a flaw with anything going on itself. All of these systems combine together to actually make you have to give a damn about how you're fighting. You can't just go through and play it like a hack and slash. You have to play it more tactically. You have to play it more like I feel like it was intended. I feel like a lot of these systems that this game put into place that are very, very good systems get slept on entirely, specifically because there's no need to focus on them if you go the traditional gameplay route with it. Like blocking, parrying, all that other stuff, that wouldn't be a factor. You could honestly just tank 90% of the things in this game and be 100% fine. So, as I round out this fight, maybe consider it. I think it is a very, very fun way, and I feel like it is the most fun way to go about playing this game. We're going to finish this guy off with a little cross-chain action, just to put it home. He is a level 38, by the way, so anybody that says that you are not going to have a good time, I pretty well walked the floor with that guy, except for the instance where Noctis got down. That was my bad, and that is why this way of playing is good, is because it makes you have to pay attention. It makes you a better player overall. It takes the derp factor out of playing the game, which a lot of people I hear complain about. It's not a mindless hack and slash. It was never meant to be a mindless hack and slash. It's only a mindless hack and slash if you want it to be. And if you wanted it to play that way, I feel like they should have made the normal mode have no levels and then the easy mode have a level system. That's the way I would have balanced it. But I am not the game devs at Square. That is not my taste. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully it has inspired you guys to maybe consider doing a level 1 run of this game itself. It's not so much a challenge run as it is just a different way to approach an already very, very fun game. And then you might get more fun out of it as is. I know I did. It was my favorite playthrough that I have done of this game, and I think it will be yours too. So, much love, Tentacrew. Hope to see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.